Welcome back, everybody, to Color Break, your third favorite comic book podcast. This is episode number 42. 42. I am your co-host, Cody. It's really hot in here, guys. I'm trying not to die, sweat to death at the beginning of this episode, but I'm with my co-host. I imagine it's very hot there as well. We've got Christian.
Yeah.
How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing okay. I have 4 lights on me, so it is definitely hot. I'll tell you that much. And it's 90 degrees.
Oh yeah, is there like a hurricane or something, Christian?
No, it went to
that
Texas.
passed?
We're good.
Okay, shout over to Texas. That's good. Yeah. Listen, guys.
Not good for them. But...
yeah, true. Not good for them, dude. But we've got a special guest this episode. Our first guest in a while. It's been a little bit, but we've got acclaimed comic book artist, comic book creator. You might know his work from such works like Children of the Woods, and then also the ongoing series from Image Comics, The Deviant. We've got Josh Hixson. How you doing, dude?
I'm pretty good. How you guys doing?
Doing all right, man. I don't know where are you calling in from. I'm not sure how the weather's doing over there.
It's like very windy. Like as soon as it went live, you guys cut out and there's like a large gust of wind. So I'm like, maybe this was a bad idea to be out here. No, I'm good though. I'm good.
Nice. It looks like you're coming to us live from the woods. Children of the Woods, dude.
Yes.
Nice.
Undisclosed.
Very on brand there.
Yes.
It kind of beat me. I got like fake plants behind me. I was like, let me just decorate a little bit, make it look. The wood's got a green light, and then
dude,
he chose the actual wood.
At least you got a plant.
Light. It's God's light.
There you go. The only thing alive in here is this piranha plant, dude. That's all I've got. This Lego piranha plant. Yeah, dude. So I don't know. We typically ask our guests. We like to start with how they got into the comic book industry. I mean, obviously everybody's got a different story. So yeah, I guess that's maybe a good place to start, dude. How did you go from like comic book fan maybe into the comic book industry?
Sure. Yeah. I started reading comics like really at a young age. I didn't have like a comic shop growing up, so I just kind of like got comics from wherever, flea markets, the library. My friend had a really big collection, so I was just kind of like getting them from all these different places, and I don't really know what drew me to them specifically. I mean, I was a big reader growing up. Yeah, I don't know. I just really liked them, and yeah, I'm trying to think of like between when I started reading them and like when I actually ended up going to school for it. It was kind of a big window in between.
Gotcha,
that. Yeah, I was like, there was a moment where I didn't really know, I just kind of like drawing. I like drawing, whatever. I didn't really know that I wanted to pursue comics in general. And then, I'd heard of SVA, which is here in New York. I was like reading in a magazine or something about it, and it was the first time that I had heard that you could like go to school for comics, like major in cartooning or whatever, which kind of blew my mind. So when I found that out, I was like, oh, so you could like pursue this like as a like in school or whatever. That was just kind of like a crazy idea to me. And that was like, in my teens or whatever. And somehow miraculously I ended up in Long Island and ended up going to that school.
Nice.
And studying cartooning. So I was there for 3 years. I got my degree, and I graduated, and I started almost immediately on Children of the Woods, which was then called The Black Woods. This was before it was public. So yeah, I was working on that, and almost immediately Shanghai read it too. So yeah, that's kind of the quick abbreviated version of it. 10 or 15 years or something.
Now, just because I'm not like super familiar, I just wanted to make sure, is SVA, is that the School of Visual Arts?
Yes,
that was just a guess. Okay, cool.
Yes, the School of Visual Arts.
Nice.
It's kind of like a crazy thing when you're young, like especially me. Like I jumped into studying film. Like
Mhm.
when I was a kid, I was just watching movies like they were just things that existed
Yeah,
from nature,
yeah,
and then you actually find out like no, people make those, and it's like
yeah,
oh
yeah,
wow, I can.
exactly. It's such a foreign idea for, especially which is what, yeah, when you're young, you don't think that like, oh yeah, people like study these things and go to school for them. So yeah, that was a big revelation.
Gives it like a little bit of like legitimacy, I guess, like to the industry, or
Yeah,
maybe
because
even
it's
to
just
like
kind of
the
like,
parents. Like it's easier to convince them. Like
yeah, yeah, you like don't know, growing up you're reading. I mean, I knew who like Jim Lee was or whatever, but like whoever created comics, it was just like I had no idea. I just like to look at them or whatever. Um, yeah, so
so you mentioned that you growing up you had no LCS.
yeah,
So I find that super interesting. Like as someone who just because it must have been like hard to either keep up with stuff, or maybe there's like huge gaps in like what you're reading and all that stuff.
yeah.
I find it interesting that you kept with it and you ended up like being in the like working in the industry. Just because I imagine it's like really hard to keep up with comic books like that. But
Yeah, again, I wasn't a traditional comic fan. I wasn't following like runs of X-Men or Batman or whatever.
right,
I would go and I would just sort of stumble upon them. You know what I mean? Another way I kind of got into them. My mom is Swiss, and she had a bunch of like French comics that I couldn't read, and I was always looking through those or whatever. So yeah, it was just like I would just sort of like find them in weird ways. I did go to a comic shop once when I was super young, and it was like the coolest thing. But again, I mainly like I bought a lot of comics just for like the cover. You know what I mean? Like, I had no idea what was going
right.
on. I didn't know when to jump in or whatever. It was just like this is a sick cover or whatever. Um, and yeah, so I wasn't really like reading them per se. Like I had a few graphic novels here and there, and I wasn't really making comics all that much when I was young. I have a few pages from when I was like maybe 12 or 13, but I was mostly just like drawing whatever. Honestly, like when I went to school for it, I was torn between comics and illustration, and I just sort of picked cartooning because I was like, I like comics. Let's do this. It was like it wasn't
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I had this like insane drive to do comics per se. And there was a minute where I was like, maybe I got into the wrong thing because it was I didn't have experience with using the tools, a nib or a brush and everything, and it was all very foreign to me. And I didn't feel super comfortable with it. Like at that time, I just doing like traditional painting 101 or, charcoal drawings or whatever. So actually like first drawing comics like for the first time was like super almost like discouraging in a way because I felt like I started
Wow,
all
yeah.
over again. It was like I was really bad. And I was working with all these tools I didn't understand or know. Um, so yeah, there was a brief moment where I was like, did I make the wrong decision? Should I have just gone to like illustration or something and just do something like that? But something clicked in like my third year. I don't know what it was. I
Nice.
was doing some shorts, and I I was like, wow, this is really cool, and I could really see myself doing this. I also got into like a bunch of different kinds of comics, like other than like superhero stuff, which is kind of what I grew up with. Like I discovered Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips at that time, and that was kind of like, oh, I'd rather do this. You know what I mean? I'd rather do like what they're doing.
Right.
Not to say there's anything wrong with superhero comics. I like them fine, and like I've done and dabbled here and there, and they're great. But yeah, that was kind of like discovering different work was kind of like eye opening. Like, oh, I could do whatever, you know.
Yeah, so listen, I'm a huge fan of segues, Christian. I don't know if you had a question lined up, dude, but I had to jump on it. So you name drop Ed Brubaker. I'm going through Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips like catalog right now. It's
Mm,
funny you mentioned them. I actually just finished Pulp, the Process Edition,
yeah,
where you kind of see, yeah. So I guess I obviously that wasn't out at the time that you're speaking about, but I guess like was there any resources that really helped you, I guess, like take that next step, like you're saying? Because I read Scott McCloud's. I'm just looking over my shelf. He has like
Mhm.
understanding comics and
Yeah.
making comics, like that full series. So yeah, I was just curious if you had any like resources to shout out for, I guess maybe people looking to take that next jump. I guess
Yeah, understanding comics was like required reading at SVA, so that was something that definitely helped me a lot.
it's crazy
That I,
that like the first
yeah,
couple chapters like blow your mind. It's like
yeah, it really opens up your mind to just kind of like, again, like the possibilities of comics. Because again, I wasn't thinking in those terms. I was like, I like pictures and words, and that is what the whole book is about. But it goes into it in depth. But other than that, let's see. I mean, this is like a little. I probably started. I guess this is going back a little too far, but I had drawing the Marvel way or whatever it's called. That's
okay,
more
yep,
like
yep.
figure drawing or whatever. But like actual comic creation, hmm, I don't know. Honestly, like I wish I had like specific books in mind other than like understanding comics. But a lot of it was just like working around other creators.
Yeah, just like
Um,
grinding it out.
yeah, like I'd say for anyone who's starting into comics or whatever, maybe if you feel discouraged or something, or you're not really sure, to just make them and get critiques from other people making them, because it feels bad to make anything alone, especially when you're first starting off. So yeah, I think a big resource is just like other people who are also making comics and maybe just starting, and yeah, getting feedback. That was a huge thing for me. Uh, so yeah, yeah.
Nice.
I think one of the things, because I did film school, and one of the things is like as soon as you jump in, there's like 40 people that all
Mhm.
want to be directors,
Yeah,
and as like you get to like that fourth semester, people drop out, and some people are
yeah,
like,
yeah,
actually, like directing's not the thing. Like you start like
yeah,
finding which area specifically,
yeah,
and like the thing that our professor told us the most was like, what movie are you copying? And we'd always be like, no, I'm making my own thing. And it's like, no, but like you need a movie you're copying. You're not
yeah,
gonna make the movie
yeah,
itself, but
yeah,
you need to look at other works.
yeah,
And then when you're getting critiques, like you said, like my favorite thing is always to tell people like, hey, shit on it. Like tell me what the worst thing about this is.
hmm,
Because like people are always gonna be like, oh, it's great, oh, it's cute, I like it. But like no,
yeah,
I need to know the
yeah,
worst part of what I'm making so I
yeah,
can just fix it.
yeah. That's, I guess I should say, if you're communicating with other people creating comics or whatever you're creating, it should be honest what you're talking about. It shouldn't be like everyone patting each other on the back. Like, I don't know. I never had a problem with critiques of like someone being like, yeah, that doesn't work. That's shit. Like, um, I don't know. That always kind of like drove me. I'm like, all right, well, I gotta just, figure it out or whatever. So yeah, that's definitely a major point of making stuff with other people, is to be honest and um, actually say what's not working.
So when you're talking about that time where you that third year where you took the next jump, I'm just curious too. Were there any, I guess, like any influences
Mhm.
that you kind of like you took with you and you
Mhm.
use that to take the next jump? And I was just curious if those ended up being maybe your favorite artists, or are those kind of like two different subsets of people and people's work that you enjoy or whatever.
Yeah, again, I would say a lot of it. I was like very obsessed with Ed and Sean's books at the time, and I was kind of emulating a lot of their stuff. Also, like my junior project was like heavily ripping off Liber Mayho horribly, like horribly, horribly. Um, so yeah, getting back to like, who are you copying? I was straight up like, I did like an Al Capone story in a very horrible again style of like how Liber Mayho did Joker. Like I was looking through that like a lot. Um, so yeah, I was just really drawn to, or became drawn to, artists and stories that used a lot of ink.
Yeah.
That was really kind of like solidified. Um, that I really like doing this particular kind of drawing. Because like when I first started, I was doing like really cartoony stuff to like superhero stuff. Like if I look through all of that old work, it was like very, very mixed and everything was different, which was somewhat intentional and somewhat just like whatever project I had to be working on. But yeah, it wasn't until I found like a style that I really, really liked, and wanted to like kind of push towards that, things started to click more. And it was definitely people like um, Sean Phillips, Lieber Mayho, too many.
I think that's sort of like the magic. And like once again, like superhero comics are great. I read them all the time. I mean, I have them
Mm-hmm.
back there, but
Yeah,
there's a lot of like just like similar artists, and you have to follow sort of like a trend. You'll see different artist styles if you're going more to like uh, like a short run of comics, like a 5 issue mini, or like a DC Black Label has like its own like, oh, you can do whatever you want. But
mm-hmm.
most like main stories have sort of like the same design.
Yeah,
And when I got into indie comics, it was sort of that thing of like, oh, this feels more human. It didn't matter
yeah,
what it was,
yeah,
but even something like Children of the Woods, like reading that, like even the monsters feel sort of more tangible than just like these like perfect humans that are always like
yeah,
perfect poses and everything. Like
yeah,
I like I sort of like the imperfection of the art of indie
yeah,
comics is what I like more.
yeah, yeah. Exactly. That was again. I was very used to looking again and can't love him enough. Stuff like Jim Lee, I love that stuff. But like seeing a more rougher or like cruder version of comics, I don't know. It just something about that clicked with me, and maybe it's because that's how I was drawing. Everything was so awful. I was like, I'll just do something easier looking. Um, but yeah, that also really just spoke to me. People who drew like that, yeah.
Yeah, dude, I love the shout out for like the inking, dude, because I'm finding myself kind of drawn more towards like that's kind of the style that I'm kind of liking nowadays, like I don't know,
Mhm.
like Francavilla stuff,
Yeah,
you know, stuff like that. I really like that dark inky look.
yeah,
Um, and so Christian mentioned it. I kind of want to jump off it. So I did want to ask you about kind of like what goes into like monster design, or I guess like the design of the Deviant, for example, like his costume
mm,
design,
mm,
because those are just, you know, having finished the Children of the Corn, but then like the Deviant, you know, ever since last year, that's been a design that's stuck out to me and others, I'm sure.
yeah.
So yeah, I guess like I guess could you go into like the design of characters like that or creatures like that?
Um, yeah. So let's see. I guess the first one that I technically designed would have been um, the creature from Children of the Woods. Um, that was a lot. I mean, like anything, it's a lot of back and forth with the writer. Um, that was a while ago now, but
Yeah,
I think
sorry to pull up like, you know,
no, no,
deep
no,
cut stuff.
no. It's no, no. What I mean is like I'm trying to think of like what we talked about, because that's kind of like where everything kind of sort of come from. I mean, from my own like this perspective, I guess a lot of it has to do with just like how the character looks in lighting, how they stand and move. Um, that's like really a big thing. Honestly, like the creature in Children of the Woods and the bog creature in the plot are very similar, and I think some people kind of rightfully pointed that out. Because yeah, there's that sort of like hunched over, like you know, arched back or whatever, like weird craned head. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I have to like a big thing is just how something like moves or like um, yeah, how something moves. At least a creature like that with something like um, the deviant, it's a little different because a lot of the stuff for him was actually the opposite. Like I felt like if I over moved him, he started to look strange or not as ominous or something. Because he's more of like a Jason, like stoic or whatever character.
Right.
So yeah, designing him was a little bit. it was more of a challenge because it was like it's very tough to not make like a Santa Claus suit like really goofy and silly looking.
Right, that's what I
Uh,
thought was so impressive about it. Like
yeah,
you made Santa Claus
you
like
you were
scary as shit.
if
So
you saw some of my sketches of what he originally looked like, it's not good. Um, like I weirdly found one of the biggest things about what makes his design work is the size of his beard. I have some early drawings of him where he has this like stupid little beard, and it just looks so dumb and silly. I don't know what it is. Something about a giant, sort of like soft, um, not too defined, just sort of like blob, almost like the like those cheap costumes you get, and it just kind of looks like a cloud or whatever, where nothing's really defined. Somehow that like made it. Once I figured that out, and I think that's probably true of like any design. Is like there's going to be like these small little things that you wouldn't think would make it, but actually are like a huge part of why something works. Um, and another thing with him was like his mask and figuring out like what that was going to look
yeah,
like. We did a bunch of different versions of that, um, and we were again sort of pulling from like wanting that like sort of Jason like dead, um, like grilling you look. Um, so yeah, there was a bunch of different versions of that, and we just happened to. The one I actually used for it was I actually had that mask. Um, I found it at like a Halloween store or something, and I, I took it to my what is it like my end of the year photo thing. Like we were supposed to bring a prop to our SVA end of the year photo shoot, and I brought that mask. And I don't know, it's a weird like backstory to where that mask came about. Um, so yeah. Anyway, very long, rambly way of designing characters, but yeah,
no, dude,
I think it's the little
that's
things. It's
awesome.
the small things.
I think that there's two things. First of all, talking about the mask from the Deviant, I'm like I was reading it and I was like, oh, it'd be cool to like make a video like reviewing it, and I
Mm.
was like looking at the suit and I was like, I feel like I could just make this, which
It's
is
a
a
Yeah,
good
sick cosplay.
it's
It's
a
a
yeah.
good
cosplay, dude.
compliment.
I
Be-
have the. I mean, it's shitty, but I have a full suit for reference, and it's pretty good.
that's the cool thing. I like that. Like the fact that it's like so
Like
like
it's
I
possible.
it's
Yeah.
possible to see that man, and that
Yeah,
scares me even more.
yeah.
And then like going into the monster Quinn from Children of the
Mhm.
Woods. I worked with Artyom Toplin that did I Hate This Place.
Yeah.
I worked with him. I needed him to design a monster for me, and I didn't know what to do. I was just like,
Mhm.
make something, and he was like, whatever. And I was like, yeah, I just trust you. I feel like just go for it, and that's better. And I feel like a monster must be so hard to describe for a writer.
Mhm. Yeah.
Because like most writers actually don't have like the ability to just make it themselves.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I kind of wonder like the description could have been like the hardest thing, and it's just like
Mhm.
sort of leaving it up to you
Right.
to figure it
Right.
out. And that must have
Yeah.
been scary, maybe for you.
For the horror creature in Children of the Woods. Yeah, I just remember him describing it as like very grotesque and like horrifying. Yeah, just something about the idea of like a little kid or a teenager turning into this horribly grotesque thing. Uh, I liked, so I tried to push that.
Yeah,
um.
the panel of him
Oh,
actually transforming like the body
Yeah,
horror
yep.
yeah,
I was just looking at that.
yeah. Again,
that
I
killed
don't
me.
remember how much of that was like. So he was like throwing up into his hands. I think that might have been something I just like put in there because I was like, let me just put it over the top, like really go overboard.
See what sticks.
Yeah, yeah.
You're talking about like like the body horror elements. You gave it a shout out, or someone gave it a shout out at the end of Children of the Woods, the trade. But you mentioned like that one scene where Quinn is eating like the head, and you can kind of like see it like in
Yeah,
full detail or whatever.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, hats off to you, I guess, for that sequence. It was kind of crazy. So
Thanks.
it's very I don't know. Have you guys seen was that movie Jeepers Creepers? It's kind of
Yeah, that's
like
great. Yes,
yeah, yeah.
It's
that's
it's
great.
been like I don't know how many years, probably like at least 15, but yes.
That's like the one thing I remember is like the head that he swallows or something like that.
There's a lot of
Body
great
horror
moments
is
in that
so.
movie.
Yeah.
I really like the
Justin
scene.
Long, dude.
I really like the scene where I forget. I don't even know if it's Justin Long or if it's. Again, it's been a minute since I saw it. But when they're approaching that like shack and the person is inside and it's just all dark and you can only hear a voice, and I think it's just like a guy or whatever. But that was like one of the scarier moments in the whole movie, where it's just like this person coming forward and you couldn't see them. It's a good one.
Sometimes the scarier thing is like the things they don't show. You're just like waiting to see it.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, you talk about things that you don't show, right? The narrator character, or I guess like
yeah,
maybe he's the embodiment of the woods itself or whatever.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I mean, making him scary, but you never see him is
yeah.
very interesting to think about as well.
Yeah, I liked again. That was all Joe. The idea of him just kind of being a voice in the woods, I thought was cool.
So kind of dovetailing off of that, a lot of that, you mentioned Joe obviously, but then that a lot of heavy lifting for a character like that, the letterer, right? We got Hassan
Yes.
Otsmane. Hopefully, I'm saying that correctly. I know
Yeah.
we talked about it at C2E2, and then obviously you're working with him again in the Deviant.
Hmm.
So I guess what is it like working with or I guess like what makes like a letterer, heads and shoulders above maybe the rest? How does it maybe like enhance your work? I guess
I mean, I haven't worked with too many, and a lot of them have been with Hassan. And
I
yeah,
was gonna
he's
say. I mean,
great.
like chance if you pick up a comic book on stands, like 40% chance it's lettered by Hassan. So
Yeah,
that
yeah.
guy's
I don't know
busy.
how he does so many books, but um, yeah. I mean, he's just really good at everything. I don't know. Like I get it back, and like I never really seem to have any notes for him. It's just like, bro, perfect. You nailed it first try.
Nice,
Like he'll do things that like I intended to do because like it'll like deviate from the script in some way, or I'll add a panel or something, and he'll just like know like, oh yeah, that's where it is. You know what I mean? It's
right.
like this weird like intuitive thing. Um, so yeah, it's very cool to have someone like him to work with because he's just that good, and just nails every part of it. So yeah.
There's two moments I could just because I just finished Children of the Woods. There's two moments that kind of stood out to me, and I'm curious if these might be one of the moments you're talking about. There's that part where the narrator's word bubble kind of like wraps around the tree
Yeah,
branch.
yeah, that's
Yeah, and
that's
then
all Hassan. That was not like, oh, like do this. Like he just
gotcha.
he's
Yeah,
very creative in that way, and will come up with good solutions to. It could have easily just been a floating bubble or whatever, but
right.
having that kind of like it's like it's wrapping around and it's part of the woods. It's not something that's like too much or it's like flashy or whatever. But it's like
Right.
it totally makes sense with that character.
And then the other sequence off the top of my head, I think when the parents are like falling through the floor into like that black void or
Yeah,
whatever, and I'm pretty sure like the word balloons get clipped off, right?
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yes.
so
Again,
yeah, I don't
that
know,
was all him.
just little things like that. Yeah,
Yeah,
like that
yeah,
makes it even more terrifying. Like the sound, the sound is getting cut off, or like the sound can't escape, or something like that.
yeah, yeah,
That void. So yeah,
yeah,
very cool stuff, dude.
yeah. He's so good.
So I was curious too, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it looked like, at least for the Deviant, you're doing the coloring for the Deviant,
Mhm.
um, and I guess I think previously we had an artist on, Dave Chisholm, and
Mhm.
he was kind of telling us, actually, Christian, I forget, did he say coloring was his least favorite part or favorite part? I can't remember, um,
Uh,
but
believe it
but
was
I,
the
I would.
least favorite because that's the part I like the most.
Yeah, so I
Either
guess
way, it was.
question to you, question to you, Josh. Like, when it comes down to it, and it's like, yo, you got to color your own stuff. I guess, do you find enjoyment in coloring as much as like the cartooning or the inking?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. There are times when it's an absolute just slog.
Yeah,
Because I'm not like I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm a very experienced colorist, and I'm not trying to like um, badmouth myself or whatever. But yeah, I don't feel like I have the widest grasp of color. I tend to lean on like the same bag of tricks for a lot of things. And so when I try to get out of that, it can be very uncomfortable. And I'm like, what the hell am I doing?
But
So there are times when I really enjoy it. Um, and there are times where I feel like I should not be doing it at all. But yeah, I like the control of kind of doing as much as I can. Um, and yeah, I don't know. Like if I wasn't coloring, it's funny if I'm not coloring my stuff, I tend to put even more work or time into the page, or at least I want to, because I tend to feel like a lot of my pages when they're done, they don't feel done, which is why I like coloring, because it's like when they're colored, they're done and they feel more complete. Um, and if I'm not doing that, I tend to want to put more work into the inks and the like for the plot. I wasn't coloring it, and I was doing like all this extra work for like gray tones and like these different values or whatever. Because like when I look at the just the plain black and white inks, a lot of the panels and pages just feel unfinished. So yeah, I'm always going back and forth of like, do I color my next thing? Do I not color it? I think for the next thing I do, I probably won't. I might need a break.
Take a
But
little break.
but
Yeah, yeah.
I will probably just sink any extra time into like doing more in the inking or the black and white. So
but coloring, like the way you describe it, it's like you're coloring to like take yourself out of perfectionism.
mm-hmm.
Because it's like no, once I like put the red in there, I
Mm-hmm.
cannot go back.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's a trick.
There is that level of too. Where it's like it's not good for me to have my hands on the last part of it because I don't. It's never done. It doesn't feel done. There's always something that could be better. I mean, the amount of times that I've been like at the end of a deadline and I'm like, there's not enough time to finish pages, and I'm like, I will not give up on this. Like, I will keep tweaking this page or whatever. And, yeah, it's not always the best thing for me.
Something that I recently started doing is like for me, like when I work on a video, I tend to now like announce it to the world because there's no way I can fail now.
Yeah, yeah, I've done that. I've done that where it's like, well, if I speak it into existence, I'm a failure if I don't do it. Yeah,
Exactly. Now people
Right.
know it's coming out,
yeah,
and
yeah.
they're
And if
gonna
I don't
hate me
do
if
it,
I.
I'll only have myself to blame. And yeah, exactly.
There was a sequence. I don't know if it was in the last Deviant or I guess it was probably the issue before. But they're at like the nightclub or whatever. Like the
Yeah,
that was a coloring sequence that I get. How would I put it? I guess I'm glad you did the coloring for. I guess is the way I would put it. Um, I don't know. I find your like especially with like the Deviant, just like the focus on like the coloring and the shading kind of adds a lot to like the tone, right? It's very heavy
yeah,
tone in the
yeah.
Deviant. So yeah, that's just something I really appreciate. Going back and reading your stuff. I gotta read. So you mentioned the plot. Okay, I gotta put that on my list as well of
Mm-hmm.
stuff to
Yeah,
check out.
For me, there was a magic to issue number 6 of the Deviant specifically when you're looking at I forget the character's name from outside the window setting up the Christmas tree. Because up to that
oh
point,
yeah,
we've
yeah,
had
Garrett.
red,
Yeah, yeah.
we've had greens,
Mm-hmm.
but coming from like just the gray at the outside of the house and all the
Yeah,
muted colors inside to
yeah,
the fucking bright green and red.
yeah, yeah. That was an aha moment for that page because I don't remember what it was supposed to be, but it, with when like you're capping off a scene or whatever, you always kind of want to like feel like there's like you're doing something, like you're ending on some sort of note or whatever, and whatever that may, it could be something subtle or something a little bigger like that. And I just like could not figure that page out. And once I thought of like, oh well, what if you it's just filmed from outside him because he was just sitting up the tree or whatever. And I think I did a version of him inside, and I was like, this is just bad or it just looks dumb. So yeah, just small little ideas like that.
Yeah,
Um,
it's it has that feeling of like someone's outside watching.
Yeah, exactly. There's
Right.
there's
Like the
a creepy
creeper,
element
yeah.
too, where
Yeah.
yeah, I'm kind of always trying to do that in that book, where it's just like you, because it's
Make
the
you
whole thing is like
uncomfortable.
who yeah, like the who done it, who's the killer. I kind of want
Yeah.
you to feel like um, you're suspecting everyone in a weird way, like everyone.
Yeah.
There's something
It
off about everyone, which is a bit, obviously a big part of what James is doing too with the dialogue. Yeah.
it it sort of added that, and I always laugh about this. Like that's if you've ever watched Stranger Things with subtitles on
Mhm.
Netflix, it has that like ominous synth music
Yeah.
subtitle,
Yeah.
Oh,
and
nice. Yeah,
I
yeah.
saw that in my head when it comes to outside of the
Yeah.
house.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
something's about to happen,
Yeah.
and
I'm always trying to do those moments. Um, that's like I do these. I've been doing these preview pages for each issue, and it's kind of tough sometimes to like find. Some of the issues have more of those moments than others, and yeah, I am definitely picturing that kind of vibe of just like unsettling, eerie, something happening.
So you mentioned earlier about I guess like working with deadlines and that sort of thing. I was just curious to your process because I know I think it was C2E2 when Christian and I, or maybe she's posted about it on her TikTok as well. But I think Stephanie Phillips talks about at least writing, like she tries to do like writing a page a day or something like that. I was just curious if like when you're working and maybe you have a deadline, do you kind of stick to like a rough page a day type of thing or
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. A page a day is like pretty standard. Um, that's what I like, kind of like bare minimum for this. I have to do like a page of like everything: pencils, inks, and colors, um,
Yeah, of course, right.
which can be a little too much, especially if I have to do like other things like covers or whatever. So I try to just do like pencils and inks a day. I did recently make the switch to like almost all digital, which
Okay,
had,
interesting. Yeah.
yeah, for the Deviant, at least for all the interior pages. Not all of them. There's some that I still do traditionally, like the splash pages, the important pages or whatever. But yeah, that's weirdly made me faster. So like I can do more now. Um, yeah, so I try to keep it around there, a page, page and a half, something like that.
I think there's always that thing of like as an artist, maybe if you started like drawing like in a physical paper, the
Mm-hmm.
transition must be like. Did you ever feel like going digital was betraying what you were doing, or was it
Yeah,
just like,
yes, I hate it. I hate it and I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I wrestled with the decision for a while because I don't really enjoy the feeling of inking digitally at all. Um, there are times when it like I don't know, I'm just sort of like in a flow and it feels okay, but it's just nothing compares to like actually inking. But what I do like more than that is having more extra time in my life
yeah,
because
Yeah.
100%?
um, doing a page a day, if I'm inking traditionally, I'm probably losing 2 extra hours a day when I could be
Yeah,
doing life stuff, whatever,
Yeah, no.
like that's I've sort of reached the point where it's like, what do I care about more? Like having more time in my life to do things I need to do or whatever. Um, or just grinding it out and being the traditional artist.
Right.
that's
Yeah.
interesting. For me, I remember when I was like younger, I was painting a lot with oil paintings,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a point where I was like, I need to switch to acrylics. Like I cannot wait
Mm-hmm.
for the oil to dry. Like the oil
Mm-hmm.
paintings just took so much out of me,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then I was just like, convenience won on me over. And like, I mean,
Yeah.
I'll tell you this: if it worries you at all, it still looks great.
That, that's what I was
I,
gonna say. I mean, yeah.
I noticed an enormous difference in that first issue, but
Gotcha.
I'm fine with it because I know I'm still figuring it out, and I know most people are probably not going to notice a huge thing. There's just like a very big. I haven't figured out the line weight. If you compare like issue 2 or 3 where I was using a much like lighter line to like the 6th issue, it's pretty different. But again, I'm fine with somewhat of an evolution or change happening throughout a series. And like I said, if it gives me extra time in my day to it's a win. So
It's your
um,
own personal battle more than anything.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I'll stick with it indefinitely because again, I just really like the feeling of drawing traditionally. But I still do it for covers. I still do it for splash pages and certain pages. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean to do a callback, I guess, to like Ed Brubaker, Sean Phillips, Pulp the
Mm-hmm.
Process edition. Sean, it looks like he found a way, or he found a world to live in where he can do kind of both.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe I don't know if that like I don't know if that increases the time or makes it um like
Yeah. I don't know.
doing the switch, the context switching or whatever to the different mediums,
Yeah, I know for
but
some
yeah.
people, I've heard that it's not really that faster. Maybe it's just like a convenience thing because like if you can work on your iPad, you can pretty much work anywhere, and you don't need all these different tools. There's that too. Um, but yeah, yeah, like Sean, he did all of. I'm pretty sure the fade out, or not fade out. Killer Be Killed is all digital, I think, and
Okay, cool. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that one he did all digital.
It's probably more
Um,
forgiving, you know.
Yeah,
well, it's
totally.
funny looking at that book. It's like he's doing way more like detail in a lot of places. Things I don't know. Like there's a crudeness to like his traditional stuff that I really really love. But that book felt like weirdly like very sharp in a lot of ways. Um,
Right.
anyway, yeah,
Like experimenting with like maybe going digital,
yeah,
like pushing it to
yeah,
its limits, sort of thing.
and I that's one thing I appreciate about him as an artist is like always trying different things. I think he's doing like now whatever book he's working like oversized, like his pages are like enormous or something,
Oh,
which is
gotcha.
crazy because he's like stupid fast. But yeah,
So you mentioned working with James earlier, James Tynion
mm,
IV.
yeah,
Audience probably familiar with that name. If you've
probably.
gone into a comic store anytime in the last couple of years,
If you've listened
Yeah,
to
um,
this show,
yeah, we're big fans of him here. So I guess like question to you, like what is it like working with James? Does he give you like we're discussing before? Does he give you like a super ton to work with in the script itself that you can kind of take with and go, or kind of how does that process work with James? I guess.
yeah. We I'm I mean everything that I need is pretty much always there in a script. It's not like
Nice.
he's I don't actually stray from things too much in the script either. I feel like every project is different, and
Right.
um, yeah, he's just very concise and has a really good grasp on like pacing and like page economy and all of that to where I don't have to. Yeah, I mean I put my different changes in here and there, but yeah, he's really great to work with, and I really enjoy the way that he writes, and yeah,
yeah, it's and the cool thing to me, it's like I saw you guys with Tiny Onion as a company itself. I mean, you're
mm,
wearing the T-shirt, and I'm kind of jealous that
yeah,
you
Okay.
are.
Yeah. I was thinking of wearing mine, but I guess I.
There was a for me, it's like seeing it's sort of like a loyalty to like he found his people, and now like I saw you're doing covers for Nice House by the Sea, so it's like it's interesting to see like a artists and writers who are just like, oh, this is just like a group now. It's
yeah,
not. It doesn't feel just like like a single serving book.
mm,
It's
yeah,
like, oh, I know where I'm gonna see them next, and that's
yeah,
exciting.
yeah, yeah. No, I'm really excited to be just involved with them and to be part of the group. They're just a really great team of people. Spent a good amount of time with them in Chicago at a con and everything, and recently, and yeah, it's exciting. I don't know. It's cool to work with. It just feels like everyone is just really there for the right reasons. You know what I mean? Where everyone's
Yeah.
just making their own, comics for the love of comics.
And all the distinct styles too. I mean, just make your head spin, all the talent that underneath that.
Yeah,
I guess I
yeah,
don't know how the relationship shakes out with you in it, with you and the other artists and creators,
hmm
but yeah, it's really impressive to see all that talent under that
hmm
tiny onion banner, I guess. So yeah.
yeah. No, they're really great at making. Whenever there's anything, just making everyone feel like part of the group or whatever. Or like they're trying to cultivate something new and cool, and yeah, it's just really cool.
It definitely feels like seeing it from the outside, like following James and everything. It feels like a family and like a party at times. Like a lot
Yeah,
of times, I'm like, they keep hanging out. I don't,
That's always a good sign, It's like
yeah. I
I
mean,
don't.
I think that's true of comics in general. Just like people, it's a very tight knit community of
Yeah,
people. Um, and yeah, you kind of become friends and in a way family with whoever you're working with. Um, and yeah, I feel like that's probably even more so with them with Tony Onion. So yeah,
that's cool, man. It's exciting to see you there. Definitely. I mean, we've been talking about James or like all his books are like as new readers, like for me specifically, his books are some of the ones that I'm like immediately gravitated to by total mistake too.
yeah,
And then once I like heard about the Deviant and I was like, I need like it was one of those books where I saw the art and because I review books all the time, but I saw the art and I was like, I need to make something different for this one. Like
hmm
it felt
yeah,
different, and I would say that's my first video where I like actually like said like, no, let me make it bigger than what it is. Like I
hmm
destroyed my room to make that video. Took the bed out of the room, put like an armchair. I was like, this book deserves a little bit more, and it started
yeah. I
like a
saw that one. It was very cool. It looked like it was a lot of work.
Yeah, I mean, dude, like maybe we get pulled in by the James Tynion the fourth name or whatever, but I mean, you just knocked us out with that first issue, dude. Me and Christian could
yeah.
not stop raving about it.
Thanks.
Looking forward, I guess. So, like, obviously, we hung out with you at C2E2 a little bit. Do you and the Tiny Onion, are you guys going to be hitting up New York Comic Con at all or San Diego?
Yeah,
I know I just asked you, like, when do you?
yeah. It's like it's bad out here. I know this is the residuals of the hurricane. Maybe it's coming. It's crept its way up
There you
here.
go. Yep.
Um, yeah, I will be. I don't know how I will be at New York Comic Con yet. If I will be tabling alone or like I don't know, but I will be there, and
Cool.
I'm sure I'll be hanging out with all of them. So yeah,
It's exciting. Yeah.
yeah.
Nice. We
You guys will be
might
there.
be going. We
Okay,
want to
cool.
work on we might be doing a panel submission again because they
Okay,
were crazy enough to say yes to the C321 one. So I think it's the same company or whatever. So we're gonna try for New York Comic Con. But yeah, hopefully we see you over there, man.
yeah, that'd be awesome.
And then I guess my last question, and I'll throw it to Christian. We mentioned a little bit before we started recording. Don't want to get too much into it, but we mentioned your next project a little bit. I'm just curious. The only question I got for you is it going to be kind of in the horror realm? Is that kind of it seems like, I don't know if you would say that's your bread and butter, but I mean, you kill it with the horror. So I'm just curious if your next project is kind of in that genre.
It's more horror. I don't know that it's really horror. I
Okay.
can say that it's another type of mystery story.
Love it.
So there are elements of people dying or whatever. Maybe there's some horror to that, but I don't
Favorite
know that I
stuff,
would.
dude.
I
Favorite
don't know
stuff.
that I would say that it's a horror book exactly. So, which I'm fine with. I like
Yeah.
to try different things, and yeah, I'm excited for it.
Nice, man. Yeah, listen, congrats on all your recent success. Been loving. Got a list of stuff I got to go back and read from you, man. But yeah, just congrats on all your coming up success and all your current success. Nice job, dude.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
thank you. I
I
Yeah, dude.
appreciate it. Man.
I keep a mental list of people that if I walk into a store and I hear they're putting something out, I have to check it out. and you like made your way into the list, which might
Easily.
mean nothing, you know, but still,
No, that's very
to me,
cool. That's great. I will take that.
Yeah, dude. Sight unseen, man. Your loyal customers here for sure.
I will take your money. I don't know.
good. Good. Someone has to take it, you know. So I'm glad.
Nice, dude. Listen, I guess we'll let you go. I think that's a good place to end it, man. It's been nice chatting with you, Josh. Thanks for joining us, dude.
All right, sounds
Yeah.
good.
Hopefully, we get to see you again. Anything you want to give a shout out to? But where can people find you?
Absolutely. Give the plugs, dude.
I am doom scrolling on Twitter and Instagram. You can find me at Josh Hixson. The H's are combined, so it's one word, one H. If you can't
Nice and
find
easy.
it,
Nice and easy.
yeah, I don't know. That's me. And what else? Yeah, please read The Deviant. It ends at issue 9, and we are about to put out 7, and that will be it.
Okay, so that might be the first I've heard. So it's ending at 9. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, that is the plan. There was talks for a minute of it being going to 10, but I'm pretty sure we're locked in for 9. It might be a little
Locked
bit
in
like
for 9.
oversized, but yeah. And then the trade comes out later in the year, I believe. So look out for that. What else? I guess that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I'll be buying the cover for Nice House by the Sea, for sure.
I know
Oh
that's
yeah.
the variant I'm going for. You know it.
I've done a few variants recently. There's that. I did a Spectrograph number 2. I think that's out.
Spectrograph. Yep.
Yeah. So get that stuff.
Perfect, Josh.
Yeah, dude. Thanks for joining us, Josh. Color Break, episode 42. Thanks for listening, guys.
Thanks.
Yeah. Bye.